support Deputy McNamara and compliment him on getting these amendments on the table and to join him in thanks for the cooperation of the County Caller and the Minister. The Government Whip, Amendments 2 and 3 and 6 together. Again, we had Mocker and a farmer here today. I think you were to meet him. Taoiseach said the Prime Minister Hayden was meeting himself, and look, it really hits the very kernel of what agriculture and the worries for the future. And I'm sure you've met him, they made their case to you. And like what they said in their statement, like that their action is grounded on a desire for young people to have a vibrant and prosperous future in rural Ireland. We love rural Ireland. We want to live in rural Ireland, and we want our children to have a future in rural Ireland, or rural communities. So without proper and meaningful legislation that takes on the big moguls and the beef barons, it's longest I can remember. I said yesterday here, I remember when Charles J. Hawley went over and sat down in a tent, squatted with the late Gaddafi, and I opened up with the Purcells at the time, Brothers Exports. But it evolved from there, and look what we have now. And we see former IFA presidents, and they become feedlots for the meat factories. The whole thing is rotten, as far as I'm concerned, rotten. And I see no appetite and no desire for successive governments, and you, Minister, as well, to tackle this. None whatsoever. And we had the pickets on the process on the factories 2 or 3 years ago now. I can't remember how long ago. And the independent farmers were out there. The IFA wasn't to be seen with them at the time. Some other groups did come. But I mean, many people who supply cattle to the factories are paying levies to the IFA and other organisations. And many of them stopped at that time, and more will stop because they're not being represented by either the rural TDs in Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Greens are totally out to destroy them, and some independents who are backing the government all the time, not being represented. And they're not being represented by the farming organisations because it's a cosy cartel. Cosy cartel. And we have Board B, and we have the beef industry, we have to go broad marketing, and all. It's all lethargic and rather inept and feeble. A world-renowned product that should be walking off the shelves. And it isn't walking off the shelves, it should be well desired to go off the shelves, but the price that the housewife has to pay, or the mammy or the daddy, whatever, I better be careful, I say, the house person has to pay, the family, compared to what the producer gets. And then we have the fifth quarter, totally hijacked and not dealt with at all. So the farmers here are been treated as complete latter-day, idiots, God forgive me. And they have no say, and I have gone, and the same with supermarkets, as guys mentioned, in this case we're talking about meat here. And the same crack is going on. Divide and conquer, get rid of all the small producers. And then have all the big food lots and we have it in my county with massive, huge ranches. You have it in Kildare too, Minister. I can't speak much for Donegal. I've been able to declare an interest too as a landowner, but yeah, my son is at least, and he's a hill sheep farmer, but I declare an interest if someone says otherwise that I shouldn't be voting or talking about it. But I would fearlessly represent the agricultural community. Born and raised on a mixed farm where we had cows, cattle, sheep, sugar beet, wheat, barley, you name it, everything. And 30 or 40 acres of potatoes that clothed all of us, the income from that, and educated our family as well. And to think now that, the small farmers have been ruined, and see those noble people today, led by their president and incoming president, McGrath, to come up to make a last gasp effort to someone support them, someone call off the dogs on them, and stop the demonising and stop the vitriol that's been poured on agricultural people as people that don't care about the environment. They've been excellent animal welfare husbandry and indeed land husbandry and looking after the land, and will do so, and ready and willing and able. And then when the REP scheme and all them came out first, they were brilliant. Now the schemes are Mickey Mouse, and they're not there, and it costs you more to employ agents and everybody else to do it. So, but in this case, there's no appetite whatsoever to tackle the meat industry. None. And we see now those meat moguls have branched into God knows what, from filling stations to every kind of hotels, you name it. All on the backs of Irish farmers and the workers. And I do recognise the amount of employment that are in the meat factories. And if anybody says I don't, I do. I do in my own town of Cahir, and indeed in Orskray and Nina and every place else down the Cahirlock's constituency in Dawn Meats and all the plants. Certainly, yes. And also the maintenance crews that go in there and the building that goes on there. But nonetheless, the profits and the siphoning off of the profits, not siphoning off, but the spending on other projects, it's gone away from the family farm, it's gone away from the large family farm, it's gone away from the big farmers. And then with all the restrictions that you put on here about producing and producing the grass that we need to have it from farm to fork, traceability. And I do say the board be here and pulling their weight. Regulators, what's the matter with regulators? They can't touch these people. They laugh at them. Kick them out of the way as if they were a bit of dirt on the ground. They've no interest in them. And they have politicians in this house falling all over to every beck and call. So it's a far cry again, and I'm going to finish with the man that we commemorated 3 weeks ago, the late leader of the Republican forces, the late Liam Lynch, who gave up his life 100 years ago, 3 weeks on the 10th of April. It's what they fought for, the ideals of a free and a farming, and all he wanted to do when he finished the War of Independence and the fight for freedom was go back to a farm and get married to his fiancée and live out his life on a small family farm. My God, those ideals are so far away from the beef barons and the moguls in the industry, whether it be the Supermax or whatever else, and the farmers are made the patsies. But I'm sick and tired of it now. And if we don't protect them and if we don't sit up and listen, we won't have them. And we'll have food shortages and we'll have misfortune. That's what we'll have. And I would remind you again that when the last 3 recessions that I remember, it was the agricultural community that pulled us up out of the doldrums and recovered our economy. And I support these amendments. Thank you.